My name is Adam Smith, 34 years old, and until 6 months ago, I was married to Sarah for 8 years. She moved out while I was at work on a Tuesday afternoon, took half our furniture, and blocked my number before I even got home. I walked into our house at 6:15 p.m. to find empty spaces where our couch used to be, missing artwork from the walls, and a handwritten note on the kitchen counter that said, "I need space to figure things out. Don't contact me." I read it twice, set it back down, and said, "Understood," to the empty living room. I didn't call her friends trying to track her down. I didn't drive by her sister's house or show up at her office. I didn't post anything on social media or send emails begging her to come back. Instead, I walked through each room with my phone, photographing what was missing. The dining room set we'd bought together, her grandmother's china cabinet, the 65-inch TV we'd argued about buying last Christmas. Then I opened my laptop and started making spreadsheets, because that's what I do. I'm a forensic accountant, and when things don't add up, I find out why. What Sarah didn't know was that I'd been documenting things for months. Not because I wanted a divorce, but because numbers that don't make sense keep me awake at night. Since January, our joint checking account had been showing withdrawals I couldn't explain. Small amounts at first, $200 here, $350 there. Cash withdrawals from ATMs I'd never been to, in parts of town Sarah claimed she never visited. When I asked about them, she'd say it was groceries or gas or something for her mother. But groceries don't cost $200 in cash when we have a credit card that gives us points. Gas doesn't require driving to an ATM 15 miles from our house when there's one at the station down the street. I started keeping copies of everything in February. Bank statements, credit card bills, investment account summaries. I scanned them into encrypted files and stored them on a secure drive that lived in my office safe. Sarah always said I was born with money, that I overthought every purchase and tracked every penny like we were broke. She was right about the tracking part. After 12 years in forensic accounting, you learn that people lie, but numbers don't. And our numbers have been lying to me for months. The night she left, I called Mike Rodriguez, a colleague who'd been through something similar 3 years ago. His wife had cleaned out their accounts and moved to Florida with her personal trainer. Mike had survived because he'd done exactly what I was doing now. Document everything, stay calm, and let the professionals handle it. "You need Jennifer Patterson," he told me over the phone. "She doesn't just practice family law. She hunts assets. And Adam, if Sarah's been planning this, you're going to need someone who can follow money trails." I called Jennifer's office the next morning. Her assistant said she could see me Friday afternoon. I spent the 3 days between Tuesday and Friday building the most comprehensive financial picture of our marriage that I'd ever assembled. 8 years of tax returns, mortgage documents, investment statements, insurance policies, and every bank record I could access. By Thursday night, I had 247 pages of documentation organized in chronological order, with every suspicious transaction highlighted and cross-referenced. Jennifer Patterson turned out to be exactly what Mike had promised. Late 40s, sharp suit, the kind of handshake that meant business. She listened while I walked through the timeline, asked pointed questions about asset ownership and inheritance, and took notes in precise handwriting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Adam, in 20 years of family law, I've rarely seen someone this prepared on their first visit. Most people come in here emotional and disorganized. You just handed me a forensic accountant's wet dream. Is that good or bad?" I asked, "For you? Very good. For Sarah? Well, that depends on what she's been hiding." We spent 2 hours going through everything. Jennifer explained Washington State's community property laws, how assets acquired during marriage get divided, and what constituted separate versus marital property. She also explained something I hadn't considered. If Sarah had been moving marital assets without my knowledge, that could constitute fraud. Not just grounds for an unequal division of property, but potential criminal charges. "Here's what we're going to do," Jennifer said, closing my file. "You're going to continue documenting everything. Every communication, every financial transaction you discover, every piece of evidence that comes to light. But you're not going to contact Sarah. You're not going to confront her about what you found. You're going to let her think she's in control while we build an airtight case. That weekend, I discovered just how much Sarah had underestimated my professional skills. While reviewing our joint credit card statements more carefully, I found a pattern I'd missed before. For the past 6 months, she'd been making regular purchases at a furniture store across town. Not small purchases. A $2,400 bedroom set in March. A $1,800 dining table in April. A $3,200 living room sectional in May. All charged to our joint account. All delivered to an address I didn't recognize. I pulled up the address on Google Street View. A nice apartment complex in Bellevue, about 20 minutes from our house. Upper-level units with balconies overlooking a small lake. The kind of place you'd move to if you were planning to start over. The kind of place you'd furnish completely before you actually moved there. Sarah hadn't left impulsively. She'd been planning this for months, using our joint funds to set up her new life while pretending everything was normal at home. Every morning, she'd kiss me goodbye and go to work, and every lunch break she'd been shopping for furniture for the apartment she was going to move to when she was ready to pull the trigger. I printed out every receipt, every delivery confirmation, every credit card charge. Then I did something that felt like crossing a line, but wasn't actually illegal. I looked up the apartment complex's rental office and called them, pretending to be interested in renting a similar unit. "Oh, you're looking at the same floor plan as 4B, the leasing agent said cheerfully. That tenant just signed a year lease in February. Lovely unit, and she's done beautiful work decorating it. Are you looking to move in immediately?" February. Sarah had signed a lease for her escape apartment in February, a full 4 months before she actually left. This wasn't a woman who needed space to figure things out. This was a woman who'd been executing a plan. Monday morning, I called Jennifer with my weekend discoveries. She listened without interrupting, then asked me to bring everything to her office that afternoon. When I arrived, she had another woman with her, introduced as Linda Chun, a private investigator who specialized in financial fraud cases. "Adam," Jennifer said, "what you've uncovered suggests premeditation on a level that goes beyond typical marital discord." Sarah didn't just leave. She's been systematically moving marital assets and establishing a separate residence using community funds. That's not just grounds for unequal division. In Washington state, that's theft. Linda leaned forward. "With your permission, I'd like to conduct some additional investigation. Background checks, social media analysis, public record searches. If Sarah's been planning this as thoroughly as it appears, there might be other things we need to know about." I nodded. "What kind of things?" "Like whether she's been getting advice from someone. Moves as calculated usually don't happen in isolation. Someone's been coaching her, and I'd like to know who." That night, I sat in my half-empty house looking at bank statements and wondering how I'd missed the signs. Not the financial signs. Those were clear in retrospect. The personal signs. When had Sarah stopped asking about my day? When had she started working late more often? When had our conversations become logistics about schedules and bills instead of actual communication? The answer was gradual, then sudden. Like bankruptcy, Hemingway would have said, it happened slowly, then all at once. Sarah had been checking out of our marriage one transaction at a time, one secret at a time, one lie at a time. And I'd been so focused on being a good husband, providing stability and security, that I'd missed her building an exit ramp. But here's the thing about being a forensic accountant. You learn that the truth always leaves footprints. And Sarah had left a trail of evidence that led straight back to the deliberate dismantling of our shared life. She thought she was smarter than me because she'd managed to hide her planning for months. What she didn't understand was that hiding things from your spouse is different from hiding things from someone whose job is finding hidden things. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Adam, it's Sarah. We need to talk about the divorce. I'll have my lawyer contact you." Then, an hour later, another text. "I want this to be amicable. We can work this out without making it ugly." I stared at those messages for a long time. Amicable. Like she hadn't been stealing from our joint accounts for months. Like she hadn't been lying to my face every day while planning her escape. Like moving out while I was at work and blocking my number was a mature, adult way to handle the end of an 8-year marriage. I screenshotted both messages and forwarded them to Jennifer without responding to Sarah. Then I opened my laptop and got back to work. Because that's what I do when numbers don't add up. I keep digging until they do. Linda Chun called me Thursday morning with results from her investigation. Adam, you need to come in immediately. We found him. She wouldn't say more over the phone, just asked me to meet her and Jennifer at the office at 2 p.m. I spent the morning trying to focus on my actual job, analyzing financial records for a corporate embezzlement case, but my mind kept wandering to what Linda might have discovered. When I walked into Jennifer's office that afternoon, Linda had her laptop open with a presentation ready. "Meet Adam Webb," she said, turning the screen toward me. The photo showed a man in his late 30s, expensive suit, confident smile, standing next to a BMW. Real estate agent, specializes in high-end properties, divorced twice, and currently dating your wife. I studied the photo. He looked like the kind of guy who'd call everyone buddy and have opinions about wine. How long? I asked, based on social media patterns and public records, at least 8 months. They've been careful, but not careful enough. Here's where it gets interesting. Linda clicked to the next slide. Adam has a history. Both of his previous divorces involved significant asset disputes. His first wife accused him of hiding marital property. His second wife proved he'd been moving money offshore. He's got a pattern, and he's been teaching Sarah to follow it. Jennifer leaned forward. Adam has been through this before. He knows how to coach someone through a strategic divorce. The secret apartment, the furniture purchases, the gradual withdrawal from the marriage. This is his playbook. Linda pulled up another screen. I found Adam's financial records through public court documents from his divorces. He specializes in what I call lifestyle arbitrage. He targets married women with stable finances, convinces them their husbands are holding them back, then helps them extract maximum value from the divorce. After the settlement, he moves on to the next target. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. So Sarah's not the mastermind. She's the mark. Exactly. And here's the beautiful part for our case. Adam has been sloppy. His BMW is registered to a company that traces back to an account Sarah has been depositing money into. She's been funding his lifestyle while thinking she's planning her future. Jennifer smiled. Adam, your wife hasn't just been stealing from you. She's been getting conned while she does it. Adam has been playing her the entire time, and she has no idea. That weekend, I received a formal letter from Sarah's attorney, Richard Maloney. I'd never heard of him, but a quick search showed he was exactly what I'd expected. Aggressive, expensive, specializing in high-asset divorces with a reputation for maximizing settlements for wives. The letter demanded an immediate 50-50 split of all assets, temporary spousal support of $4,000 per month, and exclusive use of the marital home during proceedings. The letter also made several claims that I knew were false. That Sarah had sacrificed her career advancement to support my education. That I had hidden assets she was entitled to discover. That I had been emotionally distant and controlling throughout the marriage. Reading it felt like looking at a funhouse mirror version of our relationship, where every truth was twisted just enough to become a lie. I forwarded the letter to Jennifer and waited for her response. It came within hours. They're phishing. Standard intimidation tactics. Don't respond directly. We'll handle this properly. Jennifer's response letter was a masterpiece of legal precision, professional, measured, and containing just enough detail to signal that we had done our homework. She noted discrepancies in the timeline of Sarah's claimed sacrifices, requested documentation for all claimed assets, and subtly mentioned that we had evidence of unauthorized use of marital funds that would need to be addressed. The real work was happening behind the scenes. Jennifer had filed discovery requests that would force Sarah to disclose every financial account, every asset, every transaction over the past 2 years. She'd also requested Sarah's phone records, email accounts, and social media data. Under Washington state law, everything was discoverable, and Sarah's lawyer would have to comply or face sanctions. Meanwhile, Linda's investigation expanded. She'd found Adam's real estate transactions, his business partnerships, and most importantly, his pattern of relationships. 3 previous women, all married, all financially stable, all divorced within months of meeting him. Each divorce had followed the same script: secret apartments, hidden assets, aggressive legal tactics, and maximum settlement demands. 2 weeks later, I received my first look at Sarah's financial disclosures. Reading through them was like watching someone lie in real time. She'd disclosed our joint accounts, but claimed to have no knowledge of the furniture purchases I documented. She listed her salary, but failed to mention the $30,000 inheritance from her grandmother that she'd received in April. Most tellingly, she'd sworn under oath that she had no romantic relationship that might affect the proceedings. Jennifer reviewed the documents with the satisfaction of a hunter who'd just found fresh tracks. She's committed perjury in at least 3 places that I can prove immediately: the inheritance, the undisclosed purchases, and a relationship with Adam. Any one of these would be enough to destroy her credibility. All 3 together? She's handed us the case. But Jennifer wasn't ready to play those cards yet. We're going to let her dig deeper. The more lies she tells under oath, the more devastating it will be when we present the truth. Patience, Adam. Let her think she's winning. The next few weeks followed a predictable pattern. Richard Maloney sent increasingly aggressive letters. Sarah's demands escalated. She wanted the house, both cars, my retirement accounts, and permanent spousal support. Through mutual friends, I heard that she was telling people I was being vindictive and unreasonable, that I was trying to hide assets and leave her with nothing. I didn't respond to any of it. I went to work, came home to my half-empty house, and spent my evenings organizing evidence with the same methodical approach I use for corporate investigations. Every bank statement, every receipt, every communication was documented, categorized, and stored. I was building a case the way I'd been trained to build cases, one fact at a time, until the weight of evidence became undeniable. Then Adam made his first mistake. In late September, he bought a new BMW using a loan that listed Sarah as a co-signer. The loan application showed their relationship status as domestic partners and included Sarah's financial information, including her salary and assets. Linda found the loan documents through her connections in the banking industry. This is it. Jennifer said when Linda showed us the paperwork. Sarah swore under oath that she had no romantic relationship affecting these proceedings. This loan application, signed 3 weeks after her deposition, proves she lied. Not only that, she's now financially responsible for his debts. Jennifer filed a motion to compel amended financial disclosures and requested sanctions for perjury. Sarah's response came through Richard Maloney. The loan was a mistake. She'd signed without understanding. Adam had pressured her into it. None of it mattered. She'd committed perjury, and there was no taking it back. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for November 15th. Jennifer prepared me for what to expect. Lawyers would argue procedural matters. The judge would set timelines for final disclosures. And we get our first look at how Sarah performed under pressure. Don't expect drama, Jennifer warned. This is just positioning for the real fight. I walked into the King County Courthouse that morning wearing my best suit and carrying a leather portfolio that contained copies of every document we might need. Sarah was already there with Richard Maloney, sitting at the plaintiff's table. She looked good, confident, like someone who expected to win. She dressed carefully, professional but not flashy, the image of a wronged wife seeking justice. When she saw me enter, her expression didn't change. No acknowledgement, no emotion, just a blank look of someone who'd already written me out of her story. Adam was there too, sitting in the gallery, dressed like he was attending a business meeting rather than the destruction of someone else's marriage. Judge Patricia Morrison called the hearing to order at 9 a.m. sharp. She was exactly what I'd hoped for. No-nonsense experience, with a reputation for following the law regardless of personal sympathies. Jennifer had researched her thoroughly. Judge Morrison had seen every trick, heard every sob story, and made decisions based on evidence, not emotions. Richard Maloney spoke first, painting a picture of Sarah as a devoted wife who'd sacrifice her career for an emotionally distant husband who was now trying to hide assets and avoid his obligations. It was a polished performance, and I could see why he was expensive. He was selling a story that sounded believable if you didn't know the facts. Then Jennifer stood up. She didn't attack Sarah's character or question her motives. Instead, she simply presented facts. The timeline of apartment rental and furniture purchases. The undisclosed inheritance. The perjury regarding her relationship status. The co-signed loan that proved the relationship was financial as well as romantic. Your Honor, Jennifer said, this case isn't about marital discord or incompatible personalities. It's about the systematic and premeditated conversion of marital assets by someone who has repeatedly lied under oath about her actions and intentions. Judge Morrison listened without expression, taking notes in careful handwriting. When both sides had presented their arguments, she leaned back in her chair and studied the documents Jennifer had submitted. Ms. Patterson, the judge said finally, these are serious allegations. You're essentially accusing the petitioner of fraud. Yes, Your Honor. That's exactly what I'm alleging, and I have documentation to support every claim. Judge Morrison turned to Richard Maloney. Mr. Maloney, how do you respond to the evidence of undisclosed assets and false statements in your client's deposition? I watched Richard's face as he realized how deep the hole was. He'd been expecting a routine preliminary hearing, not a presentation of evidence that made his client look like a criminal. Your Honor, there may have been some oversights in the initial filings, but my client's intent was never to deceive the court. Intent is irrelevant when someone signs a sworn statement, Judge Morrison replied. What matters is accuracy. And according to these documents, your client's sworn statements contain multiple material falsehoods. Sarah's face had gone pale. She was whispering urgently to Richard, who was shaking his head. In the gallery, Adam looked like he was calculating how quickly he could get to the exit. Judge Morrison set a new timeline. Sarah had 30 days to provide complete and accurate financial disclosures, including documentation for every asset and transaction over the past 3 years. She also ordered a forensic accounting review of all marital finances to be conducted by a court-appointed expert. Finally, she scheduled a hearing for January to address the perjury allegations and determine appropriate sanctions. As we left the courthouse, I could hear Sarah arguing with Richard in the hallway. She was demanding to know why he hadn't prepared her for Jennifer's presentation, why he hadn't known about the evidence against her. Richard was trying to explain that she hadn't told him about the apartment, the inheritance, or Adam. Jennifer and I walked to our cars in silence. Finally, she spoke. That went better than I expected. Judge Morrison understands exactly what happened here, and she doesn't like being lied to. Sarah's lawyer is good, but he can't perform miracles with a client who's committed perjury. That evening, I received a text from Sarah's unblocked number. We need to talk. This has gone too far. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to Jennifer without responding. Then I opened a bottle of wine and sat on my back porch, looking out at the yard we'd landscaped together 3 years ago. For the first time since she'd moved out, I felt something like peace. Not happiness exactly, but the quiet satisfaction that comes from watching careful preparation pay off. Sarah had thought she was smarter than me, that she could outmaneuver and outstrategize someone she'd lived with for 8 years. What she'd failed to understand was that strategy requires understanding your opponent. I wasn't the emotionally distant husband from her lawyer's narrative. I was a forensic accountant who'd spent 12 years learning how to find truth hidden in lies. And Sarah had just discovered the difference between thinking you're clever and actually being prepared. The real trial was still 2 months away, but I already knew how it would end, not because I was vindictive or because I wanted revenge, but because the numbers didn't lie. And when you spend your life following numbers to their logical conclusion, the truth becomes inevitable. Some people burn bridges when they leave. Others, like Sarah, burn them without realizing they might need them to get back. I hadn't built a case against my wife. I'd simply documented what she'd built against herself.